The Cedric Maxwell podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Welcome back into another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. He is Cedric Maxwell. I am Josue Pavon, and the Celtics, man, we're in off-season mode, right? We've had plenty of time to digest the outcome of this Celtics team after coming back, nearly pulling off the 3-0 upset, which would have been the first in NBA history. The Celtics tied the series up, got things to Game 7, but fell short. 103-84 was the final score. And like I said, Max, we've had plenty of time to go through everything, right? Every angle of this thing, what happened, what should have happened. And now as we move forward, well, what's next for this team, Max? I mean, I guess that's the point of this podcast, right? Like what's this off season going to look like? Or what would you like to see happen? But first things first, Max, let's go through Game 7 real quick. And in your opinion, what do you think went wrong for that Celtics team up against the Miami Heat?
The first play of the game. It was very simple. Jason Tatum twisted his ankle, and he was done. Essentially, he was playing, as he said, I was a shell of myself. I didn't have anything. He had no lift, no elevation. And the team took their clues. They took their clues from Jason Tatum. And if you didn't believe it, in that game, it was truly that way. LeBron Martin, couldn't miss a shot while he was playing the Celtics. I mean, and
almost
then
MVP Martin, right?
Yeah, well, he should have been. Actually should have been MVP. I mean, Jimmy Butler played well, but it was more Caleb Martin who continuously was a thorn in the Celtics side, either driving towards the hole or hitting through wide open trays or trays with his hand in the face. So he was that dude in that series, and that's the thing about great players. Great players, for a while, or great players and just good players is the fact that good players would do it sometimes. They'll do it in a series 3 or 4 games. But the consistency of him, again, can he do it in this Denver series? And so far, looks like Denver is going to, in just one game, obviously small sample size, but right. Denver really looked like the superior team.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, right? Some people think it's going to be a short series. I wonder how Miami's going to respond, especially when things go back to Miami, what the Denver Nuggets are going to look like. But, I mean, going back to what you're saying about Martin, though, that was the guy that really killed the Celtics all series long, especially in that moment. But you look at other guys on that team, though. Yeah, Jason Tatum just lost his rhythm completely after that first play. No question about it. And the Celtics team obviously they follow his lead, but I felt like that was an opportunity for someone else to step up, right? Someone like Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen had a tough night. I mean, what a worse way to go out, especially on that stage, Game 7, chance to go to the NBA Finals. And let's face it, he just wasn't ready for that moment. Is it that easy? Like, how do you say it? Like, obviously, it's a bad time to have the worst game of your career, essentially, especially in the postseason. But in a Game 7 like that, 8 turnovers, couldn't find your offensive rhythm. I mean, what happens there with Jaylen Brown, in your opinion? What do you think happened?
I think exactly what you're saying. I mean, sometimes everybody's going to have a bad night. And that just happened to be a bad night topped off with Jason Tatum, being hurt essentially from the beginning of the game. No rhythm, no shots. Malcolm Brogdon, who has been arguably one of the best 6 men that's been around in a long time for the Celtics. The forearm injury wouldn't allow him to shoot the basketball. I mean, it was just the injury bug and the timing bug hit him. And man, you looked over there, and how good would it have been to have Gallinari to come in and play part of that role? And he's starting to right now get back healthy. I don't think it would have been fair to throw him out there, but they've been talking about him practicing and what he can do next year. So. It was just it was bad timing for the Celtics. You look at it. Game 6 was a miracle. Well, they should have won Game 6. It shouldn't have got there. Then they get a miracle, and then he gets snatched back from him when Tatum twists his ankle. Essentially, the first play of the game, and Joe Mazzulla was dealing with his deck was it was stacked against him from then on in.
And then you have Robert Williams. You know, we find out after the fact that he was sick. He was throwing up and had a stomach bug, and that was a big part of the reason why he couldn't find his rhythm either. So yeah, it's bad timing for stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, at the end of the day, but I mean, Max, you expected a little more from this team, right? A little more fight, like you said. What would have been a historic moment in Boston sports history. That Derek White play.
Not Boston sports history, in the history of the NBA.
The history of the NBA. Okay, yeah, my fault. Right.
150 teams have been down 3-0, and not one of them had won. And the Celtics, it was teed up for them perfectly to win the sixth game by a miracle. And the three teams that had got it to the seventh game, all those games that were playing, the seventh game was on the road. Celtics had the advantage of being home, the crowd, everything. The first couple of minutes of the game couldn't have gone. First couple of minutes, you get a couple of baskets, and then Tatum goes down. And from then on, it just seemed like it was downhill fast. But that's part of the game, that you're going to have injuries and things are going to happen like that to you in these situations.
So what happens next, in your opinion? What would you like to see happen? Would you like to see drastic changes? Do you think that this team needs to, break up its core? I figured you would say that.
Why?
I don't either, but
what's the core reason for you to change it? I mean, this team was a game away from winning, from getting to the finals. People talked about Joe Mazzulla and said what he did or what he didn't do. I thought Joe Mazzulla had a very good year. He was solid. Did he make mistakes? Yes. Any coach is going to make mistakes. But I thought he had the ear of his team. You could see the way he was talking to him, especially to get him to 7 games. I mean, I know sports media, sports radio, sports television, all of them want to just go after Joe Mazzulla or go after Jaylen Brown. Because you had a good year. Even people harking back now saying, well, if Ime was there, that wouldn't have happened. Well, Ime got you to, the finals. Joe Mazzulla was 1 game away from the finals. So, and I've always said this, with these guys, until they win it, that's the thing about being with the Boston Celtics. You can play well. Other teams will celebrate what just happened. But for the Celtics, their goal is to get another banner 18. And until they get that, it's going to be an underachievement with the kind of players right now you have. I think you have a stacked team of some really, really high quality players. And what do you do in free agency? Who do you bring in? I don't know, but I like what you have with this team. The thing that they have to learn to do is close games and not to be inconsistent. And sometimes you get that by growing in time. Tatum and Brown together. Just find a way to close games because, let's be very frank. You essentially coughed out in Miami and then had a miracle play to win the game. And it was just crazy to see it happen like that and then see the wheels fall off the bus immediately once you lose your best player.
Well, the intensity of Miami Heat too, man. I just felt like they were like, look, we're not going to be on the wrong side of history here. You're going to get the best punch we have. And look, that team wasn't afraid.
No. I didn't. It didn't have. This wasn't about Miami. At the end of the day, it really wasn't. This was more about the Celtics.
All the pressure was on those guys. What do you mean?
No, it wasn't about Miami. It was about the Celtics. The Celtics were essentially at the beginning they were favored to win the series. Who is our betting partner right now? You read your commercial all the time.
FanDuel, a good friend of FanDuel that pay us nicely, Max.
FanDuel continuously had the Celtics as favorites. They had them as favorites. Even in the last game, they were favorites. So the pressure wasn't on the Celtics, especially at the end. The pressure was still on Miami. The Celtics, did they get a fur ball in their throat? Did they pee the bed? Yeah. But again, it's about injuries and injuries, and I know people say they're part of the game, but that was a huge part. If you saw Jason Tatum, I went to the locker room at the end of the game. He was the only one in there. His ankle was knee deep in a bucket of ice. And he said, hey, I was a shell of myself. I couldn't move. And without him, that was a huge part of what you do. And then you just said, then you had Brown, didn't have a Jaylen Brown game, an opportunity to step up and, have 8 turnovers. I think somebody said that tied the record for turnovers by Larry, don't say it. Shh, Larry Bird.
Who's it? Larry Bird?
Well, people will be like, what? What do you mean that? What do you mean Larry Bird?
It's worth noting. Hey, that's not bad company, right?
But that was what happens, and it just shows you. And I say that not to get on Larry because hell, I think he's one of the great.
Of course not, right?
To play, but I'm saying this to magnify that one of the greatest players ever to lace up tennis shoes had a stat line of that where you had 8 turnovers. But what he had those other guys who could back him up and erase those turnovers. Without Jaylen Brown, without Tatum, that seemed to just kind of fall on deaf ears. And no Brogdon, Derek White played extremely well. Then Marcus didn't have a good scoring game. What he was able to do. So it was just a lot of bad vibes at the end of the day.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with this team, man. I wonder how they respond, right? And I think I'm more curious about that. I'd rather see that happen than to see the alternative, which is them shake things up and go out and get who. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll hear all kinds of names throughout the summer, but I don't see a way for the Celtics team to get overall better, or at least do something like a huge trade for, I don't know, Damian Lillard or something like that. And all of a sudden, you put yourself in a better chance than what you have now. I don't know if that's the case, especially in the short term when we're talking about the next 2-3 years and a potential contract extension for Jaylen Brown. I guess that's the perfect way to go into our next topic here. Do you see that happening? Does he get his max contract? Do you see these two continuing to lead this team into another 2-3 year window to compete for a championship?
Celtics would love to do it.
It sounds like it. Brad Stevens sounds like it. Sure.
My sources say that, I don't know, but nobody other than what I read. That's all.
No, you can say say sources, Max. Say that. That was good.
My sources say that, that Brad Stevens wants to sign Jaylen Brown to a long-term deal. This is the last year of his contract. I know they'd love to have him time up. Tatum can get the supermax. But what you're going to have then, if you sign both those guys, now you're talking about close to $500 million for 2 players. And how do you stretch that out? How many other players can you bring in? Derek White has maybe 1 or 2 more years ago. You did sign Al. Robb is signed. So you have some of your key components right now who are already going to be there. And I like what Brad Stevens said. Look, we're bringing back Joe Mazzulla. They asked him, so you want to bring, he said, bringing back Joe Mazzulla. So he has, Joe Mazzulla has the confidence of organization. He has the confidence of the guy dealing with basketball, our operations and brand. And I think pretty much sure the ownership group, which is around the Celtics, are very happy with who Joe Mazzulla is and what they have him for.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it all year. Like, it's nothing is ideal about the way he got the job, right? And look, if this team went out and got swept, I don't know. I think it'd be more of a talking point as to if he lost his team. But the fact that this team responded in a big way, winning 3 in a row, and obviously pointing at him as someone that, helped guide these guys, and obviously they all had to come together to pull something off like that. But Joe Mazzulla is the guy I feel like they want to play for. They want to see him succeed. And again, I would love to see what this team looks like next year, but there's got to be some changes around the team, around the roster, right? I mean, I'm not talking about the core. I would love to see what they have, but I mean, the second unit ran thin. Look, Malcolm Brogdon ran out of gas, and that's been the story of his career. Maybe that's something we should have seen him in. I mean, not ran out of gas in terms of, who he is, but you know what I mean, Max? Like, the injuries popped up again. It's happening. It's happened in Milwaukee when he was with the Indiana Pacers, and here it goes again. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen at the tail end.
That is just one of the things that happens when you think about playing. You're going to have injuries. And
so the bench has to be stronger than
you're hoping that the injuries are in timely moments. Are you committed right now to Davison, him coming back, him developing as a guard? Does he have any room? Does Pritchard have any room? Muscala, does he have any room? Are you going to bring back all the guys that you look at on your bench right now and going to say, well, I want this guy.
Grant's a big question mark.
Yeah. Grant's going to be a big question mark. So I think, there's some, I would love that if they kept Grant. Grant fits in well with what they do, but can they afford to, if somebody comes out with a big contract, can they afford to have them? So, there's some question marks, but your core players, your two core players, when you're talking about Brown and Tatum, you can surround them with different players. And, so I'm okay where they're at. And what I loved about this season is I saw the maturity and the growth in Jason Tatum. And that was very pleasing. As a rebounder, as a defender, as a leader of this club, I saw the growth that I'm looking for when you think about a guy in his position with his character and who he is.
There is no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that can find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because it's able to focus on the kind of candidates that you're looking for. Wean out the ones that you don't need and zero in on the ones that can really make a difference that are worth hiring. Candidates who invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who see it in search. According to US data, we get you one step closer to the hire by immediately matching you with quality candidates. Indeed does the hard work for you. Indeed shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. Indeed's hiring platform matches you with quality candidates instantly. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you can pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to TalentNest in 2019. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Maxwell. Offer good for a limited time. That's right, you can claim your $70 credit now at Indeed.com/Maxwell. That's Indeed.com/Maxwell. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Yeah. And there's not, he hasn't hit the ceiling yet, too. I think that's what's most inspiring about it. 100%. Hey, Max, before we transition real quick, because I know you got plenty to say about the NBA Finals, so we'll end with that. But I wanted to squeeze this in here about what Danny Ainge had to say, which I thought was really interesting. It was to Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe, and he said this is about what he has to say about Joe Mazzulla, right? I don't think there's anybody there that doesn't believe that Joe is better than Ime as a coach. And I thought that was really interesting for him to say and go out and say something like that. Obviously, no longer with the organization, but saying just how impressed he was with Joe Mazzulla, given the situation that he was in. And, of course, he's also looking forward to what this team will look like when he gets a full offseason after coming off his very first year as head coach.
Danny tries to say some of the right things. I'm not sure. It's almost like a backhanded slap, though. I think Joe Mazzulla did a great job considering, what he did and what he had to handle coming into a team with expectations of being one of the best teams in NBA. For a while, they were absolutely on a roll. And the same thing you could say about Tatum. Tatum was on a roll. He was on the roll as a high MVP guy this year. And then he had that little slump in there. And he got bounced down, and then he finally has to the playoff to remind you exactly who he is and what he can do. So, you know, it was just unfortunate. I remember him talking about how excited he was to come back to the Garden. I'm sure we're going to get a little, you know, I may have to get that little B-roll tape that he has sometimes and seeing placing in there where Tatum said, I have never been so excited about coming back to play, come back home and play hard in front of these fans. And that was so cool to hear him say that, and for him to twist that ankle with the first play of the game. Man, that was just, that's Buzz's luck. And so that did happen.
All right, Max. So what are you thinking, man? You thinking the game one is an indication of how dominant this Denver Nuggets team is going to be? I mean, the final score doesn't really tell the whole story because they had a comfortable lead throughout, and the Miami Heat managed to get it down to about 12 at the end. But what's your take on this thing, man? Is it the altitude? Is it the high altitude that the Miami Heat going through? Are they going to adjust? How do you see the series playing out?
It isn't the altitude. The altitude does affect you when you play in those situations. It's not about that. I think that Denver is just a bigger, stronger, more capable team. Until you find somebody who's going to counter what Jokic does, then how are you going to play there? What Murray's able to do. What Miami did, they threw a bunch of junk defenses against the Celtics. And in the last game, it really worked. Celtics were so confused. You can't play.
They were switching. Remember that game 7? They were switching like crazy. I don't know if you can do that with this Denver team.
Well, you can't. The thing you can't do is Denver gets the ball when Al gets the ball in the paint, and that's the way you break up a zone. Throw the ball in the middle, and this guy makes a great decision. Al didn't make those decisions. Al was immediately throwing the ball to the corner, and the threes were being missed. Instead of sometimes what Joker does is he turns, sees there's a mouse in the house, steps in, and gets a little bunny. I would love to see the Celtics do a lot more of that. And that's where he's really going to be a difference between what they do and what the Celtics did and what Miami did on the defensive end.
Yeah, I was one thing I was impressed about was Bam Adebayo's big game. I didn't see that one coming, so I wonder how that pans out for the rest of the series. But of course, Jimmy Butler, see how he responds as well. But yeah, I just want to see what they look like when he gets back to Miami. I mean, obviously, game 2 should probably be closer than it was in game 1. But you're saying in 5? I like the Nuggets' chances to go up 2-0. But you're saying this thing is wrapped up. This is going to wrap up in 5?
Okay, it wraps up in 5. I think it wraps up in 5. And if the Nuggets win game 2 and they put together that kind of effort that they did with the Lakers, it could be quicker than that. I just think they're a more dominant, more talented team. Miami played well. I'm not taking anything away from them. They played very well, especially in that last game, but they also had some luck to go along with it when Tatum went down in that game. And the game plan for the Celtics has always been about stopping Jason Tatum. Well, for other teams, the game plan is to stop Tatum. Well, Tatum stopped himself when he got injured. And it wasn't a dirty play. He went up with a shot, came down on the guy's foot and essentially turned his ankle all the way over. And anybody who's played basketball before, you look at that play, and when you see that ankle twist and hit the ground, and there's not a more sickening feeling. I remember as a young boy when I was, it must have been about 10 years old, I'm jumping from, sometimes you have these posts at the recreation center, sometimes to stop cars, and I'm jumping one post to the other post, and I jump and just, oh my God, turned my ankle all the way over. And my buddies essentially made me walk home. And my ankle has never been the same since. So with Jason Tatum, that was just, I could feel his pain.
No question, man. It's tough. It's a tough way to go out, obviously, and something that he's obviously going to have to think about because you can't get right into the next season, right? You got to go through these months and process everything and then come back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And also next week, what's up?
If you're the Celtics, though, you look at it, you're in really good shape, especially even if Brown doesn't sign. Brown still has one more year on his deal. If you're the Celtics, the thing about the NBA now is having great wings. And you got two of the most dynamic wings. You have two guards. You have three guards where you're strong right there. Rob Williams had a injury, always an injury prone. He needs to be healthy. And then Al was really solid this year until he finally ran into Miami and he couldn't hit any shots. But you're talking about bringing back Gallinari. If Gallinari is able to bring you some of that scoring back, man, I don't see a lot of holes in what they do. But then you're talking about, will you bring back Blake Griffin? I'll ask you.
I'd love to see Blake back, but if he's willing to, after what happened. But I just wonder what's going to happen with obviously guys like Rob Williams. How's he going to respond? His body going to respond? Grant Williams' future. Like you got to pick up some of these. I don't know. Somehow, if you can fill these holes that you're getting out of the second unit. I mean, whether it's secondary scoring, someone up front that you can rely on, because like you said, you're relying on guys' health way more than most teams should. Especially a team that has to go deep into the playoffs, Max. Shouldn't have to worry about so many important players. You know what I mean? Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, sixth man of the year. I mean, these are guys that have to be healthy and haven't shown you any signs of being able to do that to the end.
Well, let's go through it then. All right, I'm gonna give you the mark. Then you get a chance to do it. Peyton Pritchard.
He's barely gone. I mean, what's going to keep him around if he knows that he's behind Derek White, he's behind Smart, he's behind Malcolm Brogdon? So that's probably a chip that you have to use to try to get someone that can fill in that role or fill in some sort of secondary scoring role that you need.
Sam Hauser.
Hauser, I would love to see come back. I'm disappointed that we didn't see him more throughout these conference finals, to be honest.
Let's go with AJ.
Who?
Bring him back or not? The point guard who didn't play last year, Davison.
Oh, Davison?
JD. JD.
I'm not quite sure he's ready, but yeah, I mean, I would love to see him back in the G League. Someone that you can potentially in the future take over a Peyton Pritchard role, but he's too raw right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm just trying to go down that bench and see Muscala.
I have no problem with this core. Marcus, Jaylen, Tatum. I don't want to see anything like that. But after Muscala, I would love to see him have an increased role, but I don't know, man. Dude,
you got to cut the fat someplace. All right.
That's the thing, Max.
Everything I'm saying right now, you keep going. Oh, I'd love to see him back. And then at the same time, your next rep, you're going.
No. I'm saying Pritchard. There's no role for him, right? I'm saying Pritchard could go. Muscala, he could go. But I thought you're asking me guys that you would want to see if they're able to come back and give you something. But Pritchard, Muscala.
Okay.
Just
wanted to know where you.
But what are you getting from these guys? I'm not saying bring these guys back.
Will you bring Blake Griffin back?
Blake is the one that I think, if he's willing, but he's like someone that you plug in when someone can't go. You know what I mean? He's like an insurance guy. That's not someone I want to see playing 20 minutes a night.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot, Max. But I tell you this much, changing coaches and all that. No, don't do that.
Oh no. I think that I think he deserves another chance. I think he did a great job.
Absolutely. These guys want to play for him, Yeah. It's just they have something in them that they make these mistakes or they take things for granted. Like Game 6, they took that for granted. Just from the attitude going into Game 7, I don't know what they expected. As it's going to be shots are going to just start falling for them.
Game 6, they played well until the very end of the game. The same thing that's hurt them in this season.
They took that last couple of minutes for granted, Max. They didn't have it.
That's what I'm saying. In this season, if I could correct one thing, that would be it. Keep your foot on the gas. Yeah. The Celtics don't do that at the end. And I think they almost played not to lose. And what I mean by that is all the things that got them there, pushing the ball, getting great shots, moving the ball around, they stopped doing in the last 3-4 minutes of a game. And you don't feel as comfortable in Miami. just, Miami got lucky to get to a point where they were able to do that, but at the same time, it shouldn't have been that close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't have been. That's for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up the NBA Finals. I think, according to you, right? I guess next week, if this thing does go 5, we should be talking about the end of the NBA Finals and crowning the Denver Nuggets as champion. I mean, that's my favorite to win the series, but I think it's going to be longer than people expect. I don't know. I think Miami's got more fight in them. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, this episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. And new fans right now get the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you head to FanDuel.com/Boston. You don't want to miss out on this, man. If you guys haven't checked it out already, that's $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. So you can mess up, and FanDuel's got you covered with up to $1,000 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Don't miss out. If you haven't done it already, again, that's FanDuel.com/Boston. Max, enjoy yourself. I know you're chilling with the fam. I know you had a reunion over the weekend. I'm sure you kicked it with a lot of old friends you haven't seen in a while, man. How was that? The big 5-0. Man.
50-year class reunion, class of 1973. My graduating class was 364, 65. And there are over 300 people who are still alive right now. So pretty good for people right now heading towards 70.
That's awesome, man. What was the night like? You guys telling those same stories? They asking you about what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals? What was it like?
Same stories. A lot of Celtic fans, a lot of Laker fans. It was interesting to see, and people just talking about my career and how they've seen me, and then they see me in broadcast and all that stuff. So it was a very good night. And but right now I'm looking forward to this upcoming season and see what Brad Stevens has in his bag of tricks. I think he did a great job last year with Brogdon. And, people talked about, oh my God, they lost their first round pick and got for Derek White, and you're going, yeah, Derek White is a first round pick, and he really helped you, and he solidified himself nicely this year.
100%, man. No, yeah, that's the one piece that I feel like is getting better too around Tatum and Brown, right? He's been adjusted, the way he's adjusted from the trade and having a full season with those guys, man. It's incredible. And I know his pops is happy too, man. So shout out to him. I thought that was pretty cool for his dad to go on and repping his son on Twitter, and that went viral after he made the biggest shot. And he was like, man, that's my boy. Oh my God, that's my boy. I love that. I love that tweet. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. He's Cedric Maxwell. I am Josue Pavon. We'll see you guys next week.